Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Educational Gamer, we are playing Strategic Command, and we are now looking at China. So last time we were playing as Poland, being a little bit overrun by them, honestly. This time we will be playing as China, and we will be looking at the Japanese advances over here. So let's look at the overall situation. You can see historically Japan in that time frame already had been fighting the Chinese for a while. And had been occupying basically the entire coast, of course with the exception of Hong Kong, which is right now in the ownership of the UK or some of their minor allies, specifically I think it's just Hong Kong, a state in itself. So these guys are still at peace, but overall Japan has the coast. Japan also has the Manchurian and Korean territories over here. You can see they are somewhat tensely facing off against the Soviets. There were some historical conflicts over there, but for now, unfortunately, that is a peaceful situation. So that does leave us as the Chinese to fight against the Japanese, and that is going to be difficult enough. So you can see, roughly speaking, the front falls into three categories. There's southern China, so the advance against Guizhou and Changsha down here, so from the Hong Kong Hantan area up here towards the north. Then there's the central front, this part, and then we have the northern front around Peking. So fighting in China, that much I know already, is very much dependent on terrain. So for example, if we pick one of our infantry divisions over here, you can see we could slowly advance towards the east over here, but the terrain is really brutal, and there's a limit to what you can do in that regard. So you can also see one of the biggest problems, that our units are not particularly good compared to the Japanese. So if we were to attack over here, these guys would be slaughtering us. We'd lose 2 of our 10 strength, they'd be losing 0, and that is even though they are in fact a little bit worse off than we are, and we are bringing an army, whereas they are bringing corps. Likewise, if we are using our corps, the situation would only be worse. In the central front, you can see we have a couple of fortifications over here, which is going to be very helpful. But of course we do still need to be very concerned about how exactly we can proceed over here. Because again, even in these situations, I mean, this looks slightly better, but then again, you know, not really. So let's see whether we can do anything up there. And finally down here, supply is going to be much more of an issue, but on the other hand, our units over here are much more weakly distributed. So firstly, what we're going to do over here is in Nanjing, we're going to reinforce these guys so that they can put up a little bit more a defense against these guys. Over here we are going to bring these garrison units from Guizhou towards the roadblock over here, towards these fortifications. It's not going to be much of a stepping stone for the Japanese, unfortunately. But at the very least a little bit, and every little helps over here. We could think about proceeding over here against this army with this corps, simply to keep it from moving out, because that would threaten their supply, but I don't think that's a very worthwhile decision yet. We can also see this corps over here has been hammered basically by all of these armies, and it's only at 2 strength left, so these guys actually need to withdraw very urgently, and of course that's what we're going to do over here. Now we can't reinforce them, but that's fine. I don't think it was necessarily a wise position to keep them over there. That felt very exposed, and I think indeed that is what it was. Over here, again, counterattacks seem to be a little bit futile right now, so I don't think that's something that we can worthwhilely consider. Likewise, over here, attacks entirely pointless. They feel a little bit, so that's not something that I do want to risk right now. We'll be very defensively, I guess, for a while over here in China. That being said, I think we can move up. But you're entrenched. You're very much entrenched. Can we move up you? So I would like to attack this headquarter unit over here. And we could move up our infantry corps over here and attack them. They're in a mountain terrain. That's not very good, of course. And we would be losing all of our entrenchment. But then again, attacking... yeah, debatable. These guys down here, not worthwhile attacking. I don't think. We can't even move into here, so that's a no-brainer as well. This might be doing us a little bit good. Could try to attack this garrison type unit, which would allow us to cut off their supplies a little bit. But again, it wouldn't be too helpful. I'm gonna bring up this army towards this mountain pass, simply because that will allow us a little bit better vision. And these guys, let's have a look at our supply situation. So if we get over here, supply would actually be decent enough for these guys to slowly push around, maybe through these hills. We have some fighters, that is good to see. Could attack these bombers. But yeah, why would we? And again, this attack is not really altogether too beneficial for us. So yeah, let's just try to reinforce these guys towards the maximum. And over here, this seems a little bit more favorable to us, right? So that is something that we might want to do. Just drive back this army somewhat. Could of course also advance over here again. And maybe that's not too bad. You know what, let's bring up this corps. Inflict some casualties on this Japanese garrison. And then we are going to inflict some damages over here. Yeah, that fight turned out as expected. That was slightly worse, unfortunately, but that's alright. We don't have to win every fight. Do we want to move you somewhere? I'm guessing you'll be attacked over here by these guys, but that's fine. Then these guys can reinforce, and maybe that's not too bad either. So you also need to be reinforced. Strengthen our position in the north. And that should be alright. Interestingly, we also have some engineers over here, and engineers are really a nice unit because they can dig in and defend quite nicely actually. So it wouldn't be too bad to move you guys a little bit more strongly towards somewhere. We could force march you. That would bring you down here. Potentially defending Nanning pretty well. Also potentially defending against enemy incursions in the central region quite nicely. That wouldn't be too bad. Could also bring you simply up there. Extend our fortifications a little bit. You know what? Let's do that. Let's bring the engineers over here. And let's tell them to set mode, fortify, and bring up a fortification. Yeah, I think like that. 70 days, that's fine. Defending us a little bit against the east, so even if that position falls, we'd be a little bit better now. You're pretty well entrenched, but you can't do anything against these types of units, and that's alright. Could move you out, no point doing that. Guessing we should probably reinforce these guys as well. That's alright. And that does leave us with a couple of units over here. Let's make sure our fighters are top notch. And then this infantry corps. I mean, you probably need to come up over here as well. Be ready to reinforce our positions from these guys. And then we could bring you up down here as well. On the other hand, I'm a little bit optimistic right now about the situation here in the east. They seem to be a little bit retreating. So that wouldn't be too bad. So let's bring you up over there, and that should be all right. Good. So that's China. I don't think there's much else we can do. We don't have that much money left. So all in all, I think that's fine. Not much more for us to do over there. So that, I think, concludes our first turn. Not much else that we need to do. Can bring up the submarines. No. Let's not do that. Also, India. I don't think we need to do anything with you right now. So yeah, let's end turn. And let's see what Germany does to Poland, and specifically, of course, what Japan does to China. Red Army is crossing into Eastern Poland. That is simply an event. There's nothing to do in-game, except that it does decrease Polish morale, which is of course bad. Slovakia is horrendous. That's nice for Poland. That was our dash down here. We do get a little bit of money for Poland from that, but it's not going to be too much. So, here's another event. The Viceroy of India is considering declaring India to be a belligerent state on our side today. We could do so, then there will not be sufficient time for him to consult the Indian politicians, and that would be bad, and unrest, leading to unrest among the population. But I do think that we need India in this fight. So here we go, India declares war. Here we have an interesting decision for the US. The US, of course, is not yet at war in 1939. They are pretty isolationist, but we could be spending 90 points for the US to help out the Chinese. And I do think that's a very important issue. So that would facilitate trade with China via the Hanoi-Kunming railway line. And that would be supplying additional war material to China. And of course that is very, very, very important for us. So yeah, we are going to do that. It's going to drive the Japanese a little bit closer towards attacking us. But all in all, I think that's very important to do this, simply so we can bolster the Chinese morale. New Zealand is declaring war. That's nice for us because it will bring up a little bit more supplies. Here we go. Exit raiders disrupt supplies from South Africa towards the UK. And here we have our overview of our income. So you can see, for example, the UK earns 156 points by itself based on its own industry. And then we do get a lot of material from our various supply routes, and a little bit spending a little bit on deploying the British Expeditionary Forces. France is collecting a little bit. USA is spending on the Hanoi-Kunming railway line, but that is alright as well. Now it gets to the next phase. The next phase will be the Axis moving, and it's going to be 1st of October, I was supposed to say. It's not quite the case. You can see various movements yet. No attacks yet. Japan doing a lot of movements, doing some incursions in southern China. No attacks yet. But I think very soon we are going to see that Germany is going to attack in Poland. No attack yet. So that's interesting to see. There we go. Ooh, 2 very successful combat turns for us. So German tanks attacking Warsaw and failing actually very much defending. Likewise over here, there was damage done on the Japanese and not on the defenders, so that's very good to see again. But on the other hand, we get diminished over there. Likewise over there, our cavalry division. I think we probably caused them to move up a little bit, but probably not enough. Also moved the Germans moved the tactical bombers, that's good to see. Yeah, I really need to do something about the noise, it's a little bit annoying. Yeah, Polish morale continues to suffer. Canada declares war on Germany, that's good for us. And the British Expeditionary Forces arrive in northern France. So there we go, 4 units. Polish morale suffers from battlefield losses. So supplies to the UK begin. And we are disrupting the Norway convoy, so that's very good. That is of course our submarine over there. And now it's our turn again, so that's also very lovely. Let's start out with Poland, move to the Western Allies, and again end with China. All of these things that we just did see. It is important to keep up the British Expeditionary Forces in France, so we should at least keep a couple of units there, I guess. Yeah. No less than 2, better 5 or more units if they can be made available. We also need to discourage the Italians from joining the Axis for the while, and that we can do by keeping units in Damascus, Alexandria, I guess. Gibraltar? Malta? Cairo it is. Cairo? Yeah. Malta, Tunis, and Gibraltar. So that is... we are getting our first new units. That's fine to see. And here we are. Good. So that is how the game models diplomacy. If we look at that, you can see that all of these nations are somewhat more or less aligned towards either faction. So you can see USA is currently at 22% allied. Ideally, we want to push them up to 100% so that they can join the war. On the other hand, you can see Bulgaria up here is nearly in the Axis camp, denoted by that little iron cross. The Dutch East Indies seem to be influenced by Japan, and that might be swapping over as well. So let's keep our eyes on Poland and think about what we could do over here. So I'm still guessing that we can move this infantry corps up here and potentially attack these guys. Well, we could, but unfortunately it's not as helpful as I would have thought. Warsaw, you were very successful in defending against these tanks, but you couldn't really counterattack. It's simply not something that you can do. So we could move these guys up and threaten their planes, and the nice thing about that, of course, would be that increases our morale. Could also reinforce. How much would it cost to do that? It would cost 50 points, and we do have 61, so there's no way we can reinforce both of these units, and that is interesting to see. Can you pull back? Yeah, you could pull back. Strength 8. I would like to diminish these guys, simply because I think that's the best possible return that we can have. Can you move up? You can't really. I would like to bring you home to maybe Modlin. So, on the other hand, simply reinforcing these guys might not be too bad either. Mostly worried about these tanks breaking through to Warsaw. So we could put you more explicitly into the way of that. We'd lose so many units over here. Yeah, these guys are really... I don't really see the point of these guys. Let's bring up these units down here. Our mechanized forces over here. We can move into Vienna, which might not be too bad, actually. Denying a little bit of industrial potential to the enemy. Move up to Linz. Oh, no, let's not do that. Because there are some enemy tanks. Could move up to Brno. Yeah, but there seem to be some enemies in Prague, otherwise I think that hex would have flipped as well. But you are causing some issues for the enemy, I appreciate that. So, that does leave us with a question about what to do. Do we reinforce these guys? Do we reinforce these guys? Or do we move up over here and try to attack the enemy? Also attack the headquarter unit over here. Likewise down here, but I do think it would be prudent to at least reinforce one of our units. Make life a little bit... Okay, let's reinforce these guys. To 9, that's fine. Let's move you up. Let's attack these planes. Unfortunately not doing as much damage as I would have hoped. We are leaving that fort undefended, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I don't think there's much else that we could do. Even attacking these guys isn't too helpful. Let's attack the tanks over here, simply because it will reduce their readiness slightly. And their morale, potentially. Towards the back. And I think that's all that we can do as Poland. We don't really have any points left. And yeah, there's not much that we can do. Then as the British, we are intercepting convoys over here. That's fine. For the carrier, what we should do is set the mode to naval tactical. That means that this guy is readying his planes towards being in a strike configuration, as opposed towards landing air cover, and there of course is a difference in that. I'm still thinking that there might be some German raiders over here in any of these waters, so let's try to make sure that we are finding any submarines that could be there. Not too successful in finding any enemies. And of course that is something that happened historically as well. The UK initially was quite keen on detecting any submarines like via patrols, and that was entirely unsuccessful, unfortunately. But what we can find is this cruiser up here. So remember, there was a notification letting us know that there were some German raiders. So let's bring up this battleship. Oh, I think it was only a proximate situation, wasn't it? Yeah, interesting. So yeah, we are bringing now our ships down here towards finding the probably Deutschland or whatever it is. I think Deutschland was a pocket battleship. So yeah, let's try to find the Germans. They must be somewhere along this line, disrupting our supplies. I think they were here over here, roughly over there. But yeah, right now that doesn't seem to be the case. These fighters are fine. Why can we not strike on Düsseldorf? It's probably a range thing, right? Could upgrade you. Oh, we can upgrade the town with anti-aircraft defenses. Interesting, interesting. I didn't know that was possible. Alright, so as the UK, again, it's very important to keep your headquarters reinforced to the max. Ooh, you know what? Let's actually first look at the research. Now, if the path is going to be historical at all, then of course the UK is going to be spending most of the time actually sitting back and sort of enjoying the war from a distance and trying to project some force on the Germans. So I expect that France is going to fall and that England is going to stay on its own and potentially trying to disrupt the German war efforts from over here. But that is not something that we can do right now. So since we do not want to do any bombing, I think we are pretty much left with doing diplomacy and doing some research for the long haul. And of course, in terms of diplomacy, what I want to do is invest a little bit in sending some diplomatic pressure on the US of A to join our war effort. It's not much, it's only 5%, but at least it's going to be a little bit helpful. That does leave us with a little bit of research power as well. And what I would like to do is invest a little bit into spying and intelligence, but it doesn't seem like we have the money to do that right now. So could alternatively simply go to industrial technology or production technology. That would allow us to advance that a little bit more strongly. I think that would be important. Just bring up the long-term benefit of the UK. Oh, we haven't moved this carrier, I notice. So let's do that now. I wonder where the submarines might be. Let's actually bring it towards this place over here. And yeah, that should be alright. Yeah, so in terms of research for the UK, let's invest a little bit more into industrial technology. And that should be alright. There we go. Good. For the UK, that doesn't leave us with any money whatsoever. For France, we do want to bolster our defences a little bit more. Again, it's very important to reinforce headquarter units, so that's alright. And that does leave us with a little bit money, and I think what we're going to do over here is purchase a unit. So you can see you can purchase various different units. Some of these are a little bit too expensive, so for example an army would cost 250 points, we only have 100, but we can buy an anti-air unit, and of course the Germans are very relying on enemy on air cover, so I think it might not be too bad to buy at least one of these guys. Yeah, so let's go ahead, let's do that, let's buy one of that. It's gonna take a little while to deploy. We don't really have any more points left. I don't think there's much point in moving out any of our units. We can't really reinforce because we don't have the points, but that should be alright. Oh, for the British Expeditionary Forces, can't reinforce you, but we can move up these guys towards the upper area of Belgium over there. And these fighters then, yeah, we can pretty much leave all of these guys as they are, I think. Might want to move up these guys at some point, but all in all that's fine. Good. Yeah, so that brings us towards... I don't want to do China now. We could briefly think about the situation of the Soviet Union. Are you researching everything that you can? Not quite. We could research more logistics, and that might not be too bad. We could also do infantry warfare, but I'm really interested in infantry weapons, so I think we are going to wait a little bit, accrue some income for them, and that should be alright. On the other hand, for India, infantry weapons, yeah, that's very good research for you, because of course you'll be very much focused on infantry weapons. Might actually want to invest a little bit more into that. It might not be too bad. Of course, all of these things also very interesting, but yeah, I think for India, let's spend a little bit more into infantry development, and that should be alright. Good. So we are 27 minutes. We could think about doing funky stuff in China, but again I think that might be a good place to put in a cut and do that next time. So we are holding out as Poland somewhat. We are of course having very much issues now, but we are inflicting some damage, and I appreciate that. I don't think we'll be able to hold out for much longer. Very likely that these guys can move all up and try to do some damage on Warsaw, so yeah, I think we might actually fall even next turn. But it would be good to hold out a little bit longer, at least into December or November, maybe. Let's see whether that is going to be possible. Other than that, I'm not too much counting on the French to do anything for us. We might actually want to take this heavy cruiser and actually join the search for the German raiders down there in the South Atlantic. Because what else are we going to do with French ships? They would of course flip sides during the war. Right, Poland. Yeah, still struggling. It might be enough to push up over here. And at least we are causing some mayhem down here with this mechanized corps, so that at least is okay. And yeah, in China we'll need to see. Anyway, excellent to see that the Germans are not... Yeah, maybe they're doing as they did historically, but we are going to see about that. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.